It's cold here in Memphis too, but the sun is out.
Freezing.
It's going to be an awesome day. Rob Browne, Memphis. Brenden Martin, Ocala. 35 degrees and sunny up here. Going to be into the teens Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday morning.
Freezing.
The icebreakers is what it'll take, but we're going to kill some ducks tomorrow morning.
At all. I don't
Hey,
like it.
going to be fun. Do us a favor. Brenden is streaming this live on 8 channels of Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels. Now, a lot of y'all know me. You know Brenden. Please, by all means, share and like us. That's how we grow. That's how we annuitize our business. It's like asking for referrals in business. Just keep sharing it. Keep liking it. Share it with 100 people a day. Give it out. Let everybody know about Sidelines of this great channel. Hey, we got Kevin Scarbinsky. Scarbo knows. Does a great show on this channel. One of the best sports writers in America. Frank Duffy down in Lake Pontchartrain on the banks. Doug Dean from the Black Belt of Alabama over on the Cahaba River at his hunting camp. We're going to cover a lot. Brad Bellamy will join us in the fourth quarter from LandersFordMemphis.com. And look, a lot to cover today. Hey, Indiana, Miami, Monday night. How's the SEC going to work its way back into the conversation? How do you do it? Is this sustainable? I don't know. I don't think it is sustainable. But how's the SEC going to fight the big money that the Big Ten schools have? It's a very unlikely with this panel of really smart people. Let's get started. Guys, who would have thought it? But it's happening. Indiana, if anything, they got a hell of a team this year, but they're putting an inordinate amount of pressure on college coaches around the country. Because if you say we can do it at Indiana and they win the national championship, there goes any excuses at any football program in America, Kevin. I'll start with you and then back to Pontchartrain Frank. I'm just thinking of redfish and crawfish and man, I'm getting hungry. Go ahead, Kevin.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Look, I think excuses went out the window when the transfer portal opened a few years ago, and now the NIL exists as well, and you can flip your roster virtually completely from one season to the next. People expect that you can have a terrific turnaround, but no one has done it quite like Indiana and Kurt Cignetti have done it. So if they do put the cherry on top of this incredible 2-year run, and no, they're not one-hit wonders, they're 26-2 the last 2 years, then a lot of fan bases are going to be even less patient than they already are. And there aren't a lot of patient fan bases in major college football, certainly in the SEC.
Yeah. Frank, you think about, in your case, LSU, and you were ahead of everybody before someone yelled fire in the crowded theater that Lane Kiffin was coming down there. He's shifted. He's done some more high school recruiting than he did percentage-wise at Ole Miss. But, he's going to have a short leash because it's LSU. It's the SEC.
Well, 29 people have just come in off the portal, 29 studs. We went from 0 scholarship quarterbacks to 3 in a matter of 45 minutes on Wednesday. Look, he is gonna have to work the Louisiana recruiting route, but until then, you've got to work the portal, and he is the undisputed king of the transfer portal. His results speak for themselves, which also means, to Scarbo's point, you better be ready to produce. And look, we better see it in 2026. There is no fan base is going to have any sort of latitude for these coaches when they can go out and change their roster literally in a week's time, which we did this week.
Yeah, I agree with that. The portal, and I'd love to see some data, Kevin. Before I go over to Doug, I want to ask you this. October 15th, 2018, Tom Mars, the attorney in Little Rock, he shows up in court against the NCAA. It's like showing up to a rock fight with King Kong and Godzilla flanking your left and right side. You're not going to beat him. And he's representing Trinidad Chambliss, by the way. But, Kevin, you wrote a column years ago. Doug saw it. When are people at places like Auburn and other schools, it's a long list, going to quit giving these damn long-term contracts with the buyouts? I guess when Jimmy Sexton is no longer an agent. I mean, Win.
Well, the schools still haven't learned their lessons. It should be more incentive based, that if you produce and you win the way you are paid to win, that's what the salary's for, isn't it? Because we give them performance bonuses and incentive bonuses above and beyond the $8, $9, $10, $12 million a year we're paying them in the first place. Never quite understood that logic from a business perspective. But now, though, you've got to produce. And if you don't, people will say, well, Curt Cignetti did it at Indiana. Yeah. Why isn't Lane Kiffin going to the playoff in year one at LSU if he indeed does not? But here's the monkey in the works. There's a 9 schedule next year in the SEC. They've never played 9 SEC games. And I don't know, coaches understand, but I don't know that administrators understand. I don't know that boosters understand. I don't know that fan bases fully understand what that's going to do in terms of taking a toll on these teams physically. Alabama was beat up so badly in November this year, and they clearly didn't play like the team they did in September and October. And I think you're going to see more of that. Look at Ty Simpson. He described his list of injuries. He had bursitis in his throwing elbow. He had what else? He had gastritis from the medication he was taking. He could only eat chicken soup and crackers, he said, for 2 weeks leading into the Iron Bowl and the SEC championship game. Oh, he had lower back problems. He cracked a rib in the Rose Bowl. And look, everybody's beat up at the end of the year to some degree. It's only going to get worse when you're playing an SEC opponent rather than an FCS opponent or a much lower level D1 opponent.
Before I go to our esteemed colleague Douglas B. Dean over in the Cahaba River Black Belt of Alabama, with all those injuries, hempforpros.com, our man Dave Bartu, I'm telling you, it worked on my right arm shoulder. It stopped the pain so I could start healing. They actually work. That's why he works with the NFL guys. Doug, doesn't matter your age. Ty Simpson's 22, and he's banged up. I think he made a smart decision to just go on ahead and go to the NFL, because I look at Garrett Nussmeier. He hurt himself by coming back to college for another year. To me, been there at least 3 years, and you've started 25 or 30 games. That's a no-brainer. But only 15 starts or whatever for Ty Simpson, I think it's a little bit different.
Good morning, guys. And I got my Duffy's Garage shirt on from Dry Creek Hunting Club in Marion Junction, Alabama.
Love it.
Salute. Population 20. Salute. And hey, Rob, you must have gotten a big money sponsor if you can get Scarbo on here. I mean, that's
Scarbo. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I love it.
Listen,
I love the whole group.
I'm to me, and it's really not even that close. The story of the year, see if a great writer like Kevin agrees. The story of the year is, how did you do it, Cignetti? And I would add as a subtitle to that, subplot, how did we all, who were desperately trying to find that next elite head football coach who would break the paradigm and make it possible for teams not named Georgia and Alabama to win the whole damn thing, how did we miss it on Cignetti? And of course, I don't think Cignetti would have. Well, we know that he didn't achieve this kind of greatness until we had this messed up model of NIL, and I've said and written about, see if you guys agree. I think that the big name programs whose fan bases, and I don't blame them, always mark their calendar the first Wednesday in February to throw a big party that we just won a recruiting national championship. If you win that now, what that tells me is you just plowed into your total NIL spend by $10 or $15 million. And you've got a problem unless you're a Texas school and you can spend any amount of money you want, apparently. Valuations be damned, I guess. But I think it's going to – the Alabama Georgias are – I'm sure their power brokers and officials and coaches are talking about. And at what speed do we migrate a little toward what Cignetti's done, getting old and staying old with some of these mature players, as opposed to appeasing our fan base with a bunch of 5 stars?
Yeah. Who wants to answer that one?
I know one thing. They're damn happy they've got senior and juniors on their lineup coming up Monday night, because you're going to see that difference. And that there is no replacement for experience and maturity in a college player. There's just something different about 22 and 23-year-olds being out there, men, and an 18-year-old, or like in Alabama's case, the 17-year-old we kept hearing about all last year. There's a difference in the physicality of that team. So when you do pull it off, Doug, to your point, like Signetti did, building the team and keeping it consistent, which you got to give them kudos for in this world, that's the type of team you want running out there on a Monday night.
Kevin, Monday Ellis Johnson brought up on our show with Pete Cordelli and Dave Bartu. We do the average age of Indiana, 22 and a half years.
Yep.
The Philadelphia Eagles is about 25. Kevin, if you were talking to Curt Cignetti right now and you had 3 questions to ask him, what would they be?
I'd like to know what his checklist is of characteristics that he's looking for at each position. Remember when Nick Saban early on in his tenure at Alabama, and this probably was true when he was at LSU, he had a checklist for every single position.
Yeah.
Height, weight,
Yep.
hand size, down to the most esoteric detail of what they were looking for, because he had distilled a lot of information over a lot of years that told him that you have to have these characteristics to be successful at a high level in major college football.
They're common.
It was that detailed. And guess who was his recruiting coordinator when he started at Alabama? Curt Cignetti.
Yep.
And if Cignetti learned anything from Saban, and he's fully admitted and acknowledged that he learned a lot, it's that. It's how to identify talent. And I think the problem has been that so many programs and so many of us in the media and so many fan bases have had blinders on that you have to have 3 or 4, mainly 4 or 5 stars to be an elite talent. But here's what everybody forgets. Okay, you get a star ranking or you get a recruiting ranking coming out of high school. Are you the same player in person at age 21 that you were at 19?
No
or
way.
24 that you were at 20? No. Not if you're well coached, not if you have the right stuff inside, not if you want to be great, not if you work at your craft. And so these recruiting rankings, in many cases that we're basing talent composite rankings on, are outdated. And Cignetti understood that as well as or better than anyone. That guys that have been in the game, like D'Angelo Pons, who is an unbelievable athlete. He had the pick 6 to start the Oregon game. Yeah. But he's 5'9" as a cornerback. If he were 6 foot, he wouldn't have been playing at James Madison before he went with Curt Cignetti to Indiana. He'd have been playing in the SEC. But so many people overlooked him because he was 5'9". Curt Cignetti didn't overlook him. He was great for him in I think 1 year at James Madison, and then he went with him, and now he's one of the best cornerbacks in the country at Indiana. Perfect example.
Hey, recruiters and GMs at the big programs now have introduced a term, guys, called dead money, and they're referring to the spend on the NIL spend on a completely unknown high school senior who's coming into your program. And don't get me wrong, I would sign Deuce Knight 100 times out of 100 again. But I bet Hugh Freeze is going to have some evenings where he's asking himself, Jackson Arnold, I was hopeful he could hit the refresh button. But what if I had in 2025, what if I had played Deuce Knight, rolled the big dice and put Deuce Knight out there early? We would lose some games. We lost them anyway. By midseason, maybe Deuce Knight is the answer, and Hugh Freeze is still coaching at Auburn.
Well, here's another thing with Lane Kiffin's smart. Lane's the one, because Yancey Porter brought it up. He goes, he's not going to go out there and suck up to 8th and 9th graders and then put $20 or $25 million worth of NRA, I call it non-revenue producing assets, on the bench of high school players. That's why he goes, when you look at the roster component makeup, when Georgia and Ole Miss played in the Sugar Bowl, 91% of Georgia's roster was made up of kids they recruited out of high school. Ole Miss was only 34% of kids they recruited out of high school.
He's got to flip that. He's got to flip it to where it's about 60-40. But let me tell you, that 40 he's pretty damn good at. He just racked up 3 of the top transfer portals at quarterback. We have 0 to 3. And to Doug's point, you've got to go with that kid, like the kid out of USC, Hassan Longstreet. The potential is too great. You can't pass up on that. Yes, it might become a bust, but the potential is too great. But you got to get him on the field to know that. And that was Hugh Freeze's point. He went with the safer choice. And like Doug said, y'all lost a couple of those games of the Oklahoma thing. I still think y'all got jobbed on that. But other than that, you might have had a quarterback that does allow him to keep his job. And Auburn goes on and plays in a bowl game and gets the extra 23 days of practice. And I mean, it's exponential.
Kevin, if you were sitting down with Hugh Freeze right now at the golf course or wherever he hangs out, and you had to ask him, how did you get it so wrong 3 straight years at the quarterback position? I mean, it's like almost like he was trying to do it.
Well, I don't think that invitation is forthcoming anytime soon for me to hang out with Hugh Freeze.
Or any of us.
Considering that the opinions I've expressed on him pretty much from the day he got the job at Auburn. However, if I did have that opportunity, I would just like to know what exactly his thought process was. What did he see in Peyton Thorne, first of all, and then in Jackson Arnold that told him those guys could win in the SEC? And I would love some detail, not just numbers, not just he threw for this many yards at Michigan State in Thorne's case, et cetera, because it was pretty easy to see if you looked at Peyton Thorne's numbers, they went down every year. He had a really good year his first year as a starter at Michigan State, and then the numbers dropped, He got a little better, I think, in his second year at Auburn, but you're banking your future, your job on that quarterback. And that's why Lane Kiffin finding Trinidad Chambliss at Ferris State. And I don't know if it was Kiffin or it was Charlie Weiss Jr. or someone else suggested it to them. I don't know how they hooked up originally, but that is the portal edition of the year.
Yeah.
Because Trinidad Chambliss came out, you talk about coming out of nowhere. We thought that was going to be Austin Simmons leading Ole Miss to the playoff this year. He gets hurt, and all of a sudden, here comes Trinidad Chambliss, and he put them in the lead. Thought they had the game against Miami in the college football playoff semifinal. A guy who was in D2 last year. If that doesn't tell you to widen your field division as a general manager or an assistant coach or a head coach and realize that there's talent out there, but you have to be able to figure out who has the talent, but who also has the right stuff, the intangibles, the stuff inside that can take them to that next level.
Sorry to interrupt. Dare I say, that's almost Trinidad. It's almost like transferring a quarterback to a big-time SEC school from, let's say, Blinn College, right?
That can work, right?
If y'all have not seen, and I'm sure it's on your radar from your buddy Moscona, Duff, but Ole Miss is blaming Kiffin for the chaos in their locker room because they apparently had a leak of the NIL contract of some of these incoming portal players, and some of the deals are higher dollar amounts than the talented starters who have stuck around, that all they did was put them in the college football playoff and came real close to. I think we'd all love to have seen one more shot at the end zone by Chambliss if the referees had the guts to call PI when it's obvious on the final play of the game.
Wow.
I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah. Kevin, elaborate a little bit quickly. Howard Sprague from Sylacauga just commented on here about your podcast on this show, Scarbo Knows, about Cam Coleman.
Cam Coleman or Cam Newton?
I'm sorry. Cam Newton. Sorry.
Not the same player.
Yeah.
Freudian slip. Freudian slip.
Wow. Yes. These glasses suck.
Cam Newton won more games in 1 year at Auburn than Cam Coleman did in 2. Yeah. And had a far greater impact on the program.
My apologies.
Let's be clear about that.
I looked at the wrong thing. But anyway.
I'm still shaking my head when that news came out the other day about the latest class of the College Football Hall of Fame, and it had 18 players in it. Some really great players. It had Mark Ingram. It had Garrison Hurst from Georgia, and Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, Peter Warwick, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Cam Newton, I know, was nominated, but he wasn't voted in. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around the mindset that would tell you, nah, I'm not sure he's a college football Hall of Famer. And I've said this since January of 2011, that I believe, and I believe it now, that that's the greatest individual season in college football history, because not a single player on that Auburn team, other than Cam, ever carried the ball in the NFL, ever caught a pass in the NFL, or ever started a game on the offensive line in the NFL. Only one other offensive player on that team even got drafted, Lee Ziemba, the left tackle, who was a very good college player. He was drafted in the 7th round by the Carolina Panthers, played about 6 games, never started a game. No one has lifted a team higher on his shoulders than Cam Newton did.
Yeah.
Kevin,
I agree.
Let me, I have I guess a cynical, but I think it's got factual basis, theory, a reason that Cam gets snubbed in these kind of honors. And you need only go back to that magical 2010 year. And I appreciate what you said, that the degree of difficulty was there. Give that team credit. They managed to take 3-star O linemen and get the absolute best out of them like that. Sometimes that's all you need. You don't need a 5-star that plays like a 4 or 3.5. They always win the press conference. They win the fans over number 5. You need a 3-star that plays at the upper end of what they're capable of, and they play together as a team. But at the end of that season, 2010, these scumbag, butthurt people in the media, or whoever voted for it, voted as SEC Player of the Year in 2010 a tennis player. I don't remember. I think maybe it was at Florida. And nothing against the great sport of tennis. But can we agree that the numbers alone, first of all, there were forensic audits of bank accounts, and no one, I don't know if Cam's dad or somebody ever got the $180,000, which was actually the number that Bond, as Dan Mullen's runner, offered Mr. Newton, the dad, Cecil Newton. That's the only thing, as far as I know, that's been proven. So, I thought in America, until the evidence shows it's overwhelming, not some, Tiger Droppings website that somebody in his mom's basement is producing, just making stuff up. So that there is a residual, long-lasting, and I admit Cam is a weird personality these days, but you get to do that in America if you feel like it.
Yeah,
he's the greatest single-season player in Auburn history. And I would say Bo Jackson's the greatest athlete to ever. That's not shocking. But Bo didn't, he didn't hoist the big trophy in the end, which is not his fault.
Yeah, let's do this. And I agree totally with you. All those people that were just so jaded, they couldn't handle it. And watch this podcast, folks, on this channel, because it's really good. I will be watching it today as soon as after the show on my way to Memphis. Guys,
I hope you'll be listening. Wait, Rob. I hope you'll be listening to it, not watching it while you're driving, or unless somebody else is driving.
Yes, I will be listening as I drive along in my F-150. All right, y'all. The sustainability of this, the Big Ten on the verge of a 3rd straight SEC championship. Talk about butthurt. SEC fan bases, they're nowhere alumni-wise. They're nowhere close to most of these Big Ten alumni bases. Now, we hear the number of Indiana, 850,000 living alumni. I don't know if that's true. I thought Florida was the biggest in the SEC with 500,000. Now that we see, we know Mark Cuban has money, but there's a lot of other Indiana people, because I know of one personally, a friend of mine works for, who has insane money, and he's supporting Indiana football. But it's the size of the alumni bases. Is the SEC going to be able to get back to where it was just not that long ago, guys?
Well, hold on. Can we slam on the brakes, not tap the brakes, but slam on the brakes on this argument that the SEC is dead and buried and gone? Let's look at the 3 straight years in which the SEC, oh my goodness, didn't send a team to the national championship game. In 2023, Alabama lost to eventual national champion Michigan in the Rose Bowl in overtime. And Michigan had to score a late touchdown to send it to overtime. In 2024, Texas is driving to tie the game with Ohio State in the semifinals, the eventual champion. And then the strip sack happens, and Ohio State wins by 2 touchdowns. And this year, Ole Miss takes the lead late in the semifinals against Miami. Miami scores, and Trinidad Chambliss takes them right back down the field. As you said, they had to throw into the end zone. Probably should have been a PI. They probably should have had another snap. So it's not as if the SEC has completely fallen off the face of the map. They've just had misfortune. They've missed a play here or there. And let's be honest, guys. As good as the SEC was when it won 7 straight from 2006 to 2012, if there were a 4-team playoff then, or dare I say a 12-team playoff then, they might not have won all those championships. It's a lot harder to win when you've got to play multiple playoff games.
Correct.
So let's keep it in perspective.
Hey,
Yeah, I'm not
Kevin. I think I would ask y'all. It's a close call, maybe, but I think one of the stories, it might be the story this year, and it's a small sample size in terms of champions and who wins it, is because of Indiana, but actually also because of Miami making such a deep run, because of Ole Miss beating Georgia. This season, that maybe the story is the death of the blue blood. I mean, the architecture of how it all works now is you have marginal value in building an elite championship roster from simply look at all the championships we've got. It's helpful. You'd rather have than not. But you know what? There's a saying goes, nothing fails like success. And some of these blue bloods, I think, are struggling to transition out of a high school roster building model.
Look,
Sure.
well, I definitely am not, pouring dirt on the grave of the SEC. I love this conference, but we better be thinking about it because complacency is what will take you out. That's all I'm saying is that, yes, this league has incredible last 20-year run, but you want your fan bases to understand there's got to be a sense of urgency of like, okay, we're really good, but now here comes Texas Tech and Indiana. And you know what? Just because you got a lot of alumni, I mean, that you got to get them engaged. Per capita, the SEC boosters are probably more engaged than any other alumni fan bases in the country. I think I'll say that's a fact. And as far as great players, the talent's here, but if you don't play them the first year, they can be anywhere. Yes, it's the most talent-rich part of the country, but we got to rethink how we recruit. And I'm sure coaches are doing that, Frank.
I think it's adaptability. That is the key quality of a successful program right now. You have got to be adaptable. I mean, look, I think Doug's point is spot on. And look, you don't even have to look at the SEC to see an example of that. Look at Clemson. Dabo just didn't want to play the game. He thought he could, stay with what was going on and not change. And you see what they've got. I mean, hanging on by his fingernails. So, no, you're exactly right, Doug. I am spot on with what you're saying. You have got, the SEC will be just fine, guys. We play the game. We've got some really good portal, incoming players. Look, and to Scarbo's point, it's hard to go 16-0, boys. There's so many things that cannot come into place. My team went 15-0, and I'm looking back. We barely beat Auburn, barely beat you guys at Tiger Stadium in 2019. And if that doesn't go our way, you don't have that season. So there's so many things that can go wrong. The SEC will be just fine. We'll be back in the mix. But look, we have to be good and give a cap tip to the Big Ten. You guys have gotten us the last 3 years. We salute you, and we're going to go back and work harder to get a national championship. All 16 of our teams.
Let's talk numbers, and please educate the viewers. I am told that $40 million is the spend in Austin, Texas Longhorns, and you need only look at the players they're buying. That they're not getting them for $500,000. I would expect Cam Coleman went there for maybe $2 million. So 40, I have it on good information that the officials at Auburn, as one example, have set the maximum roster spend at $30 million. Auburn is not poor. There's a bunch of schools being called poor because we're not willing to pay a ridiculous amount that Hugh Freeze did for a wide receiver room that went 5 and 7. Nothing against those guys. I hope they have good careers. So my question is, if I thought that the clearinghouse or what NCAA Go or whatever that website is called that does the valuations, I thought that would be a guardrail on a program like Texas being able to spend basically whatever they want with oil money. Is 40 million? Will the valuations that comprise 40 million hold up? I presume they will, but what if they don't? How does that get rectified? The player has to take a pay cut from NIL. Your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Well, it's the College Sports Commission that is now supposedly the governing body of these NIL deals. And they've attempted, I hear you, Frank, they've attempted to rattle their saber recently. And of course, their saber is more like a pool noodle. But they've attempted to rattle their saber and suggest, now listen, now some of these multimedia rights deals, these promises that schools are making to guys in the portal to come play for them, the NIL deals, they're still supposed to have a legitimate business purpose. And I don't think anyone believes that all of these do have a legitimate business purpose. They are pay for play, disguised as NIL deals. And that's the wild, wild west aspect of this that's still going on. How can you promise a player that if he comes to play for you, that you will pay him this amount? He'll get a national TV commercial with Dr. Pepper or whatever it might be. And the CSC says they're taking a hard look at these things. Well, we'll see we'll see where that goes. I don't think anyone, certainly on this panel or maybe in college football overall, has any faith that organization is going to be any more effective at policing these things than the NCAA was. Just for example, like Ty Simpson telling Chris Lowe that before he never entered the portal, but before he signed his NFL draft paperwork, that he was offered by Miami, Ole Miss, and Tennessee deals ranging from $4 million to $6 million. And how can you offer someone a deal when they're not in the portal? That sounds like tampering to me. Now, I know there are certain specific bullet points you have to hit to actually be considered tampering, but that sounds like something the CSC might want to look into if they're serious. They probably won't.
That's tampering with the NFL, Kevin.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to pivot a little bit, and y'all can still circle back to this very topic, but I think this is worthy of at least some banter. But on the question of, a lot of us saying, I'm done with college football. I hate this. The players are mercenaries. I'm never going to watch TV. And with a couple of data points, Kevin, the great city of Birmingham, Alabama, yet again, numero uno, eyeballs on TV when college football is being played. When our population, I don't know how we do it. I guess we have nothing else to do in Birmingham but watch college football. And of course, obviously, Alabama and Auburn play no small part in that obsession. But then another one I shared with the guys a week or two ago, non-CFP, non-playoff bowl games. You would figure when you look at the stands and it's only family members up in the stands comprising maybe 15,000 capacity crowd, that would be down. That's up 13% in viewership for non-CFP bowl games.
Yeah, and one thing for sure, I really don't give a damn about these kids anymore like I used to. I care. I mean, it's my school or the school. There's zero connection. I mean, because yeah, they're just a bunch of. They got hustlers and they got pimps, basically athletic. These agents. It's a joke. They don't care about your school. But what's going to be fun is after they burn you and take your money and leave you, and then they don't make it somewhere else, and they try to come back and network in at LSU or Ole Miss or Florida with the boosters and the Letterman's Club, and they get the Heisman. Like, dude, you ran when things were tough. And I love what you said, Kevin. I could care less if Cam Coleman, who cares? He was on 2 back-to-back 5-win teams. And all I heard last season was, how are you going to double team Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman? Well, it doesn't matter if you don't have a quarterback. And Hugh Freeze did it 3 years in a row. I don't see him getting back in coaching anymore. Hopefully, for a long time. He just lost it. But guys, Indiana, Miami, Monday night. Everybody's picking Indiana, and everybody can't be right at the same time. It just doesn't happen very often.
They can in this instance.
Put me in the herd. I'm in the herd with them.
Right.
I'm in the herd.
All right. But here's the thing. This is a very smart panel here, okay? And we got a lot of smart people watching this show. Somebody make a case, or each of us can make our case for Miami getting the win. And don't say because they're playing at home, because you're most often going to get mugged in your own driveway because you let your guard down. And there's rarely a time when Miami has a home field advantage. We know that.
They got to pressure Mendoza. They got to pressure him. They got to get people on him, and they got to make him uncomfortable so he's not back there making easy passes. And they better have a spy on him, because even though he doesn't run a lot, in a game like this when everything's on the line, he can tuck it and go and pick up those at 15 or 20 yards. That's going to be the key. They have got to clamp down on him. Now, having said that, I don't think they do. I think Indiana is going to win this ball game. I just hope they don't win it so much that my 2019 team's legacy is being challenged. I have a concern about that. And by the way, he has to throw 19 touchdown passes to top Joe Burrow. Just let y'all know he's got to have a really big night to do that. But no, Miami's got to
bet the under on that. Can I bet the under on that, Frank?
Yeah, you're right.
Second that.
I got that. No, but they're going to have to pressure him. They got to get him uncomfortable back there, and they better keep him in the pocket.
We'll save the best for last, the great Scarbo, and then Rob, if you've got an opinion on the game. But a couple of things that, no shocker that I'm picking Indiana pretty big. I'm also not going to be shocked if big is like a 10-point win. Miami's certainly got assets that can cause problems. And I think the chance for Miami, and I would, just making up a number, I would put the chance of them winning at maybe 30%. And that feels a little high, but because of what we've seen Indiana do to some very good teams so far. I mean, they just disassembled Oregon. I'll be kind in the new year and not circle back to the Alabama demolition. But what Miami's chance is to shorten the game, make it about being physical and downhill running, lean on their bigger, more powerful, be like their head coach. He's an O-lineman. And go straight at their defense, see if you can keep Mendoza on the sideline. And here's the thing, people, when you see a quarterback win the Heisman, your brain tells you, well, he must be throwing it 35 or 40 times a game. And recently, Mendoza's throwing it like 20 attempts a game. But my God, when he gets a one-on-one matchup, a 50-50 ball, it is in a perfect place that is indefensible. So I think Miami's going to have problems. I also think Carson Beck is far more likely to make one or two critical mistakes in this game. And I just think I don't see any data basis to pick a Miami shocker, but they certainly have happened before.
And Doug, his completions are done at the line of scrimmage, at the snap. He knows exactly where to throw that ball. This kid is a really smart, heady quarterback, and that's what you're seeing. To your point, he knows where the single coverages are, and he goes to them. All
right, Kevin, your thoughts. This is interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards what Doug said, and like the rest of you guys, I'm on riding shotgun on the Indiana bandwagon, and have been certainly since the Alabama game. But this has got to be an old school game for Miami. They have to do the things that every coach that we ever worked with, covered, talked to for years and years and years used to say. You got to run the ball and you got to stop the run. That's what Miami has to do to win this game, and they're capable. I mean, they've got a very strong offensive line. They've got a very powerful running game, and they've got a really strong defensive front. But nobody's done that to Indiana. And Indiana, they don't have the big names. They don't have a Reuben Bain, I forget the other guy on the other defensive end. They're just Mesidor. Those guys are outstanding players. They don't have the big names, but nobody's running the ball in Indiana, and nobody stopped Indiana's running game either. And they're not doing it with big names. So Indiana doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't beat itself. It's good in every single, it's not just good, it's elite in almost every single aspect of the game. When's the last time you saw an Indiana receiver drop a pass? I mean, those guys, I don't know if they're using Stickum like Fred Biletnikoff back in the day for the Raiders. I don't know what's going on, but those guys don't drop the ball, and Fernando Mendoza is hitting windows the size of Tic Tacs.
Yes.
It's unbelievable what they're doing, the high level that they're playing at. And so it is obvious after 15 games, it's not a one-hit wonder. It's not a fluke. It's not karma on, the sun shined on them that day. No, they're doing this consistently against really good football teams again and again and again. And who said they don't trust Carson Beck, or they trust him not to make a mistake? Was that you, Doug? Carson, if you give me the choice between these quarterbacks, it's no choice at all. It's Fernando Mendoza. And Frank, that was a great point. His ability to escape pressure, to feel the pressure, and know on rare occasions it's time to escape. Next thing you know, he's got 10, 15, 18 yards, and he's got a first down on 3rd and long. They don't face many 3rd and longs because they're so good on 1st and 2nd down.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kev.
Now, look, Miami can win the game. They are talented enough. The ball can bounce funny ways. Indiana can finally turn the ball over, which they haven't really done. But I think the odds of that are very slim.
Yeah, and the only thing, I always hate going there about key injuries in games. The one thing, we seem to all agree that Miami's somewhere in south of 50% chance to win. If somebody might say it's a 10% chance to win, I said 30. This is kind of wild speculation. But the one X factor, if it were to happen, there's some DNA in the Miami program. I hope I don't make Hurricane fans mad, but they like to hit quarterbacks, and they might like to hit a second past the whistle. And if they're those savages on that front are putting hits on Mendoza, and it makes him uncomfortable, much less if he is unable to finish the game, or at least be in there long enough where it's out of reach, then if they have to, I don't know who the backup QB is for Miami. Or
it's Mendoza's brother. It's his younger brother.
That's Indiana.
Indiana, yeah.
My bad. But that could make, and we saw Carson Beck go out in a huge playoff game that, affected that one, or certainly affected the subsequent game. So, Mendoza needs to finish the game, or at least go deep in the 4th where maybe the game is out of reach.
All right, let me throw at some stuff no one's talking about. And I'm not being contrarian just to be that way. Why did Indiana struggle to beat a shit Penn State team that just is trash?
College football.
That's right. It's college football. Why did they struggle against an Ohio State team that Miami manhandled? 24-14. Okay.
Fair.
So here's what I'm saying. It's a stock market term. I live it. It's everybody can't be right at the same time. Everybody is picking Indiana. The pass rush, and y'all make such great points. All of you do. So all of you would be great lawyers. And I'm thinking this, okay, Indiana goes on the road and beats Oregon. Dave Bartu is an Oregon alum, College Football Matrix, hempforpros.com. He said it. He goes, Oregon's not great at anything. And he said, this is the worst offense, defense kind of that they've had in the last 4 years. Now they've lost both coordinators, Tosh Lupoi to Cal, Will Stein to Kentucky, who's brought in 3 of the top 4 portal offensive linemen in the country, by the way. So Miami, just because it's at home, that's not why. It's that front 7 on the defense. And Kevin, journalistically, you're the authority here. You're smarter and wiser than me. The term, the word, the phrase physicality, is that used in the proper context? Hell, I don't know, but Miami will get after your ass. Cristobal played there 86-90 from Christopher Columbus High School, played with Fernando Mendoza's dad, and Fernando's mother was a hell of a tennis player there, and Fernando was a 3-year letterman in tennis. Something tells me that Fletcher guy and the Miami offensive line are going to go out there and try to slow it down. But here's the problem. To borrow the Chuck Oliver phrase, Frank, if Miami makes a mistake early, watching Indiana is like watching a python eat at the zoo. I mean, if you've ever had that privilege. That's what I'm saying. So I think Indiana wins, but I think it's a late push, 38-29. That's who I'm going with, which means they cover. But y'all all 3 draw such great pictures, but you got to question, and Doug said it, it's college football. So there's some intrigue going into Monday night.
But it's like Duff said. Auburn had its Kentucky of all games in 2010. I mean, Auburn had to drive the ball with Cam Newton running at every single play to get in field goal range to escape Lexington, Kentucky, a bad Kentucky team. And then Duff, he mentioned that Auburn came to Baton Rouge and had a chance to win that one. But, so I think every champion, usually there's one or two games they get tested and they have to prove their composure in a close game. It does not get much closer than that Indiana wide receiver at the baseline of the end zone with his big toe on his left foot barely getting down. So I'm more interested in how is Indiana playing the last couple of games against real competition,
right?
And man, they just look like a flat out machine.
That's important. That's what we're looking at. Recency bias.
Doug's being kind about that 2010 Auburn team. 7 of their 14 games were one-score games. They were tested virtually every week, and they passed every test, which again is a tribute to Cam Newton's greatness that season. You know the name we haven't mentioned yet that could be the X factor, the difference maker for Miami? It's Malachi Toney. No one's covered that guy all year.
Reclassified.
He is unbelievable. He is a special player.
He is.
It's 17 years old.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is, but
He's
he
17.
plays a lot older than he is. And I'll tell you what's really impressive about him, and we saw Ryan Williams burst onto the scene last year, but he didn't make the impact that Malachi Toney has made, and he dropped off as the season went on. Malachi Toney will block. When they throw those bubble screens, he will lay out a defensive end. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there. He's got a toughness and a physicality, Rob, to use your word, about him that you don't expect from someone with his incredible skill set. So he's the guy that could make a difference. He's the guy that can get open deep or can take a bubble screen 80 yards. If you give him a seam, he will hit it and he will make you pay for it. So that's a guy that can be a difference maker. If Miami's going to win the game, he's going to have to make a difference. He's going to have to hit a big play, an explosive here, an explosive there, for them to be able to put up enough points, because I think Indiana will score.
The second coming of Percy Harvey. Go Gator.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey,
there you go.
This is like champion of the obvious here. But would you say that Indiana, outside of Miami, that zip code, that Indiana is America's team, that 90% of the viewers want Indiana, this magical story, to end with a championship?
Oh, absolutely. I saw a great graphic on Twitter it was a map of the United States, and it said, and it was state by state, the logos. It said people who are cheering who want Indiana to win the national championship. And every state had a red IU in it, except for that little sliver of South Florida, which had the Hurricanes logo. And I think that's a pretty apt description of who people want to win this game.
And Oregon was cheering for Indiana. And by the way, Louisiana might be a little bit green on that too, because of the legacy.
All right, let's do this. Let's bring in Brad Bellamy, LandersFordMemphis.com, and get his thoughts on it, because Brad likes to wager a little here and there, and on the horses and college football. Brad, tell us what's going on at LandersFordMemphis.com, and then weigh in on this Miami and Indiana tilt Monday night in Miami.
Hey, good morning, guys. First things first, the big announcement of the week, Rob, is that Landers has expanded. We have grown, and we now are Landers Ford of Memphis on Mount Moriah. So not only are we Landers Ford of Carterville, but we now have our 4th store in the greater Memphis area. So yesterday we officially moved in, and it is no longer Auto Nation. It is a local dealer in the market in the heart of Memphis, and we're super excited about our growth and our expansion into the heart of the city.
Hell yeah. I
Very
love
nice.
it. That's a familiar location. Ford's been there a lot. That is awesome, man.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Time was the heart of the country. I mean, when Dobbs Ford owned that store, I mean, it was the #1 store in the entire country. Yeah. And, quite frankly, there hasn't been a lot of local, anything there in a long time. When Auto Nation bought it, national corporation. And man, we're super excited about the opportunity there to put our brand on it, bring our people, to help them. And man, they got an unbelievable wholesale operation in parts and fleet, and they've got a lot of folks that have put a lot of work in there, but from the top, they just haven't had the support. So we're gonna make a huge investment facility, huge investment with their people, and really excited to expand our brand. So that's why I wasn't on last week, because I was fully in the trenches trying to get all of the buy sell stuff done and completed over there. So but I'm back in Carterville this morning. I'm glad to be here. It was nice to go around and hug my team and shake their hands and say, here I am, guys. I haven't left you forever. So, right. But really excited about that. We got great programs going on. December was fantastic. Carried over to January, and so that's our big exciting news today. And love to have folks come see us either here or at Mount Moriah, because we're in the process of getting a website and all the other stuff that goes around trying to get everything launched. But we got people over there. We got our name on the top of the building, and ready to take care of folks. So and another location.
So send them there or Collierville.
That's right. That's right.
Got it.
That's right.
That's huge. That's huge.
We got a lot of folks in East Memphis and in the heart of the city that have tried to figure out where they're going to go, and a lot of the programs we offer here, we're going to offer there: pickup and delivery, and remote service, and mobile service, and just give a great experience and meet the customers where they want to be met. So really excited about it, Rob.
That is awesome news. I'm glad to hear it. We're going to be pushing it hard. Let's talk your thoughts, Miami and Indiana. We got Kevin Scarbinsky, Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, executive producer Brenden Martin. It's going to be a great game Monday night. I'm just really curious who you think is going to win.
I mean, is it going to be a great game? I mean, to me, if it's not Indiana, if this is Ohio State or Alabama or, LSU back in the Burrow days, this is a 14, 17-point spread. The only reason this game is an 8.5-point spread is because it's Indiana, the second losingest team in the history of college football. So, I mean, if you look at the last, since we've had the playoff, most of these games have not been close. We had some great games between Georgia and Alabama. We had some great games between Clemson and Alabama. But for the most part, these have been blowouts. They've not been games where there was under question. I mean, think about back to the Georgia TCU game, the Michigan-Washington game, Alabama when they destroyed Ohio State. This, to me, has the makings to be that exam formula. Every one of those teams had a couple of stumbling blocks. Alabama barely survives Auburn. Georgia barely survives. So that happens along the way. But this team is locked in. They are focused. And, I would be shocked to see them not only win the game, but win by 2 touchdowns or more.
All right. Y'all respond to that.
I'm on it, minus 14. I'm going to get a prop bet and at Caesars tonight. And by the way, tomorrow I'm going out to the fairgrounds. It's the day that they have the camel races and the ostrich races. So, Brad, let me know who you like in in those races. I'll get something down for you. No,
hey, I think 246 try box. Let's just go with that. And
Okay. No, I think you're right. I think this is a 2-touchdown game. If you put them in a burlap sack, Indiana, you're exactly right. This would be a 14-point game, and especially if it was neutral area. And again, last time I checked, the fans aren't getting on the gridiron. I think they walk in this.
Brad, appreciate your take. All of us were kind of in lockstep with your take. Rob's kind of a contrarian investor, so he was tipping the hat to Miami, but still picked IU. If Indiana does win, especially if they win convincingly, which I kind of expect, as in 14 plus covering the 8, but then I think that what'll be interesting to follow in recruiting strategy and building a roster. The programs in Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, there's a bunch of them that have always tried to win the high school 4- and 5-star championship every February. And how quick will this mean that all of a sudden, if you're 23 years old and have played at decent production, your NIL value is higher just because you're older? Do you see the impact of that on the championship pedigreed programs like Alabama and Georgia, Brad?
I mean, I think some of these teams have already started to do that and adapt to that philosophy and process too. I mean, it really comes down to the quarterback, and you're seeing how much money's getting spent. But I mean, this Indiana team, it wasn't just about money. I mean, Kirk Cignetti has done an unbelievable job, and he needs to get, to me, 90% of the credit of everything happening there. I mean, it was coming into his first press conference and saying Indiana was going to do things that no one in the world except for maybe Kirk Cignetti thought was even possible.
Yeah.
Convincing all those guys to do it, starting it last year. And we thought last year was an anomaly. But my question is, they win this year. How many, let's say next year Indiana does the similar thing. I mean, maybe they don't win it all, but they make, top 2, top 4, whatever in the playoffs. Is there going to be a way Cignetti stays Indiana in 2020, 27, 28? I mean, I just, the money that's going to get thrown at him is Saban. I mean, it's going to be Saban, like, glory days type praise on this guy. And, I mean, to do it there, he can do it anywhere.
Yeah. Kevin.
Well, he's got Mark Cuban might be an X factor to watch.
Yeah. And I've got a friend who's going down with his boss who's definitely contributing to Indiana. He lives up in Indianapolis. They've got money. The Kelley School of Business is top 8, top 10 in the country. There's usually the College of Engineering at most schools is where the big money comes from. It certainly is at Auburn and Texas A&M, so watch that one. Kevin, close us out with some parting comments of wisdom. We got about a minute and a half left before we got to get going, but great panel. And also, I want to say thank everybody for watching. Share us and like us. I cannot tell you how much that means. And get out to Landers Ford, Memphis.com, Poplar, out there, Poplar in Houston, Levy, and Germantown and Collierville where they meet. And the new location, the old Dobbs Ford location, right there on Mount Moriah by 240. That is an iconic. That was the #1 Ford location in the world, and it will be again soon with Brad Bellamy and that team getting there. But Kevin, give us a little word of wisdom or 2 or 3.
Well, Brad hit on it. We are witnessing the dawn of the Kirk Cignetti era. I think because of where he's been and because of what they're paying him, he will stay at Indiana. He will keep Indiana in the top 5 and in the playoff and national championship conversation year in and year out. And he will be, when it's all said and done, the closest thing we have seen to Nick Saban. He won't be Nick Saban, but the closest thing we have seen to Nick Saban since the glory days at Alabama.
Yeah, great stuff, man. Guys, thank all of y'all so much for sharing your time with us. Doug, good luck at the hunting camp. Frank, you're hooked on hunting now. Kevin, Scarbo Knows podcast. New location, Landers Ford on Mount Moriah, as well as Poplar and Houston Levy. Thank you so much. Guys, get out there and support Landers if you need a new car, truck, or SUV. And also, hey, right down the street from Hewlett & Dunn, Boot and Clothing Company on the square. All your great boots, men's and women's clothes for kids, Barber, Filson, STS, Devil Dog jeans, duck heads like you've never seen, Maury Gaston and Dave Tompkins. And, hey, hempforpros.com. If you got aches and pains and you are having trouble sleeping, order these. Use promo code Sidelines or Flash Friday for 25% off. They ship out that day. They have pain lotions and topicals and roll-ons. They work. I use them. I run, bike, swim, do all that. They work. They'll stop it. Your trouble sleeping, you'll sleep like you did when you were 9 years old. Hempforpros.com. Order from these people. Dave Bartu works with the NFL alumni. They're serious about what they do. And Rumble Boxing Gym. Hey, how you fight is how you live. Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis. For executive producer Brenden Martin, let me say, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Find ways to help others. Find excuses to win. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.